Great. So welcome, guys. Good morning. Today is Tuesday, May 25th, 2021. This is usually the time we meet for Be Sure in Montclair, but today we have a joint meeting, which I'm really excited about. So we have partners from all three affiliates, from the Montclair affiliate, Upper Montclair, as well as Jersey City. We do have some future Be Sure partners that are on the call today. Would love to acknowledge all the future members that are here: Dylan White, VJ Solanke, Kelly Saunders, Pete Kopek. Who else did I see? If I missed you, I apologize, because I got a lot of people on the screen today, which I'm excited about. So thank you guys, partners and future partners, for joining us today. So today we are having a guest speaker. The topic today is effective communication. So, in our networking group, in our business world, in our personal lives, communication is key. Clear communication improves efficiency and morale and helps eliminate misunderstandings. People are more willing and even excited to collaborate when there are clear paths of communication. Our speaker today is Chad Maldonado. Chad is the Dean of Campus and University Partnerships at DeVry University. Chad's been there over 18 years, very impressive resume. He's also an active member of the North Jersey Chamber of Commerce. So without further ado, please give your undivided attention to Chad Maldonado.
Thank you, David. And that's a really phenomenal introduction. So appreciate that. And everyone, I'm really happy to be here this morning. And I'm excited about the subject matter that we're going to go over. What I want to do, give me one moment. I'm going to get everything shared and get things coordinated. Give me a quick second here. All right, we have this. Give me a second. I'm going to drag over the participant list as well as the comments, get that set up so I can see those as well. All right, so just give me one more moment as I get this positioned. All right, so today's effective communication workshop, a lot of what we're going to go over is going to be things that we're aware of. There's also going to be an opportunity for us to gain insight for other components. The big thing about this, now we have a nice size group today. So if you have anything that you'd like to share, there's a number of questions I'll put out there for the group. Please share your experiences, share your insight. This is how we learn, through collaboration. And I'll look to do, really facilitate this webinar, and also keep it within time, really on time, and make sure that we're actually moving fluidly throughout this. Any questions you have, you can put it right into chat as well. I'll be monitoring that, just so we can wind up having a nice, full, engaged atmosphere. So with communication skills and connecting with clarity and confidence. So as we go into this, the first thing I really want to kind of share with you is that there's been studies through the IDC research, and I'll provide you all the information after in terms of where you can go over for the references. And what was found is that first thing in the morning, individuals are looking at their phones. Within 15 minutes of waking up. And what's happening is that it's really a reminder that there's an unavoidable ability to escape having this inundation of information and technology, and just having so much information at our beck and call. So what we're looking to do is, how can this perhaps impact our ability to communicate effectively when we have so many modes of communication coming in? And at the same token, how can we look at strategies for really becoming more effective at this? So as we go through this, we're going to go into a few different things. We will look at communication overload. So we want to communicate effectively. We also want to focus that we're looking at tone in our written communication, verbal communication, nonverbal communication. So these are a number of pieces that we'll go over today. And really, there'll be a segment that I'll go over in terms of continued growth and options that we have from what we learned from today as well. I'll share that with you at the very end. So a lot of what we're looking at is, how can we focus on any miscommunication, determining ways for growth, again, identifying best practices. Whatever you have to share is huge as part of what we do for today. So without further ado, let's go on to the next slide and really get into a bit more of this. So just think about, what methods do you use daily to communicate? So if you wouldn't mind, just put it right into chat. So what methods do you use daily to communicate? So of course, one example would be the Zoom. Email, perfect. Text messages, yes. Calls, absolutely. Phone, email, LinkedIn, video, Facebook Messenger. It just keeps on coming and rolling in. Instagram, Facebook, podcast. There's just so many different modes. So this is great. I really appreciate you highlighting these things, because what we're going to find is how we can build upon all these different modes of communication. And here we go. So never in human history have our brains had to work with so much information as they do today. Again, we are a generation of people who are so busy processing the information received from all different directions that we at times can lose the ability to think and feel. And this is from American psychiatrist Edward Hallowell. So what we don't want to do is lose that emotional tie, the empathy. How do we establish those connections and relationships that are so vital and important and growing from there? So let me ask you, so why does communication still fail when we have all of this at our beck and call? So let's think that through. So why does communication still fail? And I have a slide coming up. People don't listen. Absolutely. You know, people are competing they're rushing through. Misunderstanding through text, yeah, that happens often. Bias, yeah, we have that lens can definitely be on. Not clear communication, yeah, clarity is tremendous. Closed-minded, cannot verbally get pointed across. Cutting corners, absolutely. And poor nonverbal skills, yeah, eye contact, attention, attentiveness, don't want to be bothered. Yeah, it takes energy and it takes a level of engagement and care for communication. Here are some other things to share with you. In terms of, it's easy to miscommunicate. Our impression is not memorable. Yeah, that definitely is something which folks may walk away from the conversation and as a miss. You know, at times we may be overwhelmed. So overwhelming, again, you know, as I mentioned, there's so many messages being relayed through so many different channels. Perhaps we're in a habit of sending an email instead of speaking. All right. Also, one of the things that could be helpful is how do we kind of counter, you know, rather than sending email and, you know, instead of speaking, we can also look to set clear agendas. A clear agenda may look like specific times of your day you have it mapped out that are dedicated for phone conversations. Other parts of the day are going to be dedicated for email responses. Other parts of the day where you're giving yourself permission for just walking away, clearing your mind, doing a reset, and coming back. So setting clear agendas throughout your week is important. Perhaps there's touch points that you want to do as part of your week to ensure that a specific project or a follow-up with a client and customer is going to better support what you need to do. Maybe there's a schedule you're going to have mapped out as a follow-up date that you're going to reach out to this person on a specific date, be committed for that accountability. All right, I just want to make sure that everyone is hearing me through clearly. Someone had mentioned a buzzing
Chad,
sound.
there was a buzz that was coming through and I had everyone except you muted. So I don't know what it was, but it's gone now.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you. So overwhelming. The next piece is looking at communication is inconsistent. So again, this is where we could do a weekly bulletin email. So let me ask you, what are some strategies that some of you employ to stay consistent with some of your follow-up? So here's a weekly bulletin email, which will help in terms of following up with specific customers or team members. Paraphrase, excellent. And paraphrasing, ensure understanding. The paraphrasing aspect, monthly email updates, excellent. Now, using checklists so I don't forget something, perfect. Now, communication can be unclear and inarticulate. You know, so there's moments where perhaps we have an unplanned message that came through and we're reacting to that and our emotions are stirring about. And perhaps it's not really coming from the place of that calm that we'd like to be in terms of best communicating. Other moments of failure is perhaps not having enough details included in that communication. So as an example of details, maybe perhaps there's a request with a team member and they're going to be compiling data as part of a report. However, perhaps I don't need that data today. Perhaps I need it in 3 days. But if I don't convey that messaging as to timeline for when I may need it, that person may rearrange their entire day to get that data out by today. And it may not be necessary. As opposed to saying, hey, I need it in 3 days. Now it gives this person an opportunity of saying, oh, great, I'll balance out my schedule so I can deliver this report of this data by XYZ date. So things such as that detail are definitely tremendously helpful. The other part that we want to look at too is communication doesn't include enough listening or compromise. And we have some folks saying actively listening. And really, what does that mean to actively listen? So we're going to go over some techniques regarding that as well, because that truly does compromise the communication. Communication is hindered by a lack of trust. So what is that? So let's just say, as an example, an organization, a company, big, small, micro, however it may be, if the culture is that team members are unable to trust what's being conveyed, the accountability, the responsibility of a team member, perhaps a leader, then the question will arise, well, how accurate and how valid are these statements? So it's so pivotal that we don't lose that trust, because it really will support and maintain the communication as we move forward. So now, as we think about what are some of the ways you have experienced miscommunication in the workplace? So tell me, what type of miscommunication have you seen? If you could put it right in the chat, that'd be great. All right, we're going to go on to the next. Anything comes to mind regarding miscommunication you've experienced, just go ahead and share it. Overlooking an email, that absolutely occurs. More often, the miscommunication comes through text. A client has an expectation that was unclear. So I think one of the things what's great about all this is, when is a text appropriate? When is an email going to be redefined or restructured? And also, client expectation that was unclear. Do we have a plan in place that we can gain feedback from our clients, gain feedback from our team members, and apply this feedback toward further growing and becoming more effective as communicators? You can't tell the tone or inflection of someone's voice, and the message can sound snarky. Yeah, absolutely. Loss in translation can absolutely occur. So keeping it simple. So this might seem so straightforward, but I think it's really important as a reminder. Who are we communicating with? Who's our audience? Are we communicating with executives, customers, peers? What are we communicating? Why? And how? And really just as a reminder. And sometimes it's great just to have this posted. So if you're forwarding communication, that we have these components in place, so there's clarity in terms of, okay, let's touch upon each of these points here. All right, so when we look at this, one of the things we want to go into next is going to be looking at setting the tone. All right, so when we're setting the tone, there's a couple of things we want to look at. We want to ensure, how do we maintain being genuine, being authentic? That, again, are we professional, or is it coming across as condescending, too personal, being aggressive? So we're going to go over some examples with what this may look like. And, as we all know, it's not what you say, but it's how you say it. So let's go on to this next example and really look at in terms of, what are you getting from this? So one of the things that I had read some time ago was indicating that to get the best response from an email, always write thank you. If you're asking for something, if you're inquiring for something, it's absolutely amazing by just writing out thank you. And what I have a tendency of doing is always writing a thank you or an acknowledgement, whatever it might be. I always look to write it in full, because it's sending a message to that person that you're taking the time out and you matter. Thanks versus THX, or yes versus yep. All right, let's take a look at, so again, we don't want to have it seem too casual. I'm sure there's folks that you have a wonderful relationship with as friends and so forth, where this may work. Let's take a look at this. You can't use a conference room until my meeting ends. As soon as we wrap up the meeting, the room is yours. So The top segment is very, what's the word? It just kind of escaped me. I would say it's very kind of almost like authoritative, like, hey, this is my space, this is my place. Very cold, confrontational. Sounds a little rude. Yeah, it's like, here's my flag and I'm planting it in this room and I'm making sure that this is my room, rough around the edges. As soon as we wrap up the meeting, the room is yours. How does that sound? Territorial, that's the word. I was like, thank you, Kelly. What about the other? As soon as we wrap up the meeting, the room is yours. How does that come across in comparison? Warm, caring, absolutely genuine. And just think of words and phrases such as pleased, opportunity, happy, or rather, happy to, uh, thank you, looking forward. These are all words that are positive descriptors that really add consideration, cooperativeness. Absolutely. This is great. All right, so here's another. May I kindly ask you if you had a chance to review the template I previously sent, attached for your easy reference? Can you please review the template I sent you last week, attached? So just what do you think of these two? Let's look at the top. May I kindly ask you if you had a chance to review the template I previously sent, attached for your easy reference? So what do you think about that statement in comparison to the other? Polite, respectful. It is, absolutely. The first is nice but passive if you need it done. Okay. So the top one is leaning toward being a little flowery and took extra time to compose a more thoughtful message. It is actually, it's very kind. And the thing about it is, it's, you want to pick and choose how best you want to convey. So, and it is warm. And so, verse, can you please review the template I sent you last week? That is a lot more direct. The first is nice, but no one really speaks like that. It seems fake. I agree, Kurt. So the top, again, it sounds nice. It's a little flowery. So is it necessary to add that flowery piece? It may in some moments. However, the bottom is more toward, it's okay to be direct and really focus on objective with a request. All right, we're going to go on to the next. If anyone has additional comments with this, just put it right on in. I'll be sure to review and address. All right, so setting the tone. Here we go. After seeing the report, can we put time on the calendar to chat soon? Verse, after seeing the report, let's put time on our calendars to chat soon with an emoji face. And Will, yeah, I agree with you, Will, with the prior slide regarding some clients not liking flowery BS. It's true. People really, it's like, hey, just give me the information. And that's great. I really appreciate that. So this here, we want to really be careful on treading upon the use of emojis or emoticons. It can come across as being unprofessional. Now, again, it might be something where you have a relationship and it could be a friendship and, you can, utilize in terms of what you feel best. But I would definitely recommend to steer clear from emoticon or emoji within a professional setting. It could be taken the wrong way. And that's the last thing we want, is some sense of miscommunication or wonderment in terms of, that's an interesting emoji to be utilizing for this. What is this? Let me ask you, so with that being said, when is it okay or perhaps effective to use an emoticon or an emoji? So again, when do you think it may be effective to utilize an emoji? Yeah, big. I'm a fan of the thumbs up and social media. Absolutely. I think it's better to use positive emoji. It is. Yeah. This one here with that straight kind of stoic emoji face. Maybe it's something is funny, the LL emoji. Absolutely. This would make me worried if you saw that face. Yeah, it's like, what's going on here with this meeting? Wishing happy birthdays, etc. That's great. And yeah, so I really believe there's ways that you can pick and choose for that. Let's take a look at this one. I only use if there is a relationship already in place to make something lighthearted. Yeah, I agree with you, Kurt. I think it's definitely the smiley face, absolutely. And of course, yeah, it's really again knowing your customer. Once you know your customer, you understand in terms of level of what type of communication works. Um, I agree with you. All right. So here, good call. Looks like an oversight on my end. Verse, oh my goodness, I apologize for my mistake. I completely missed that. So the question I have for you, and you don't have to type it if you choose to, go for it. Do you find yourself apologizing regularly? And so the bottom statement is a bit much. You know, I believe it's so important. And just as a human being, we have to acknowledge moments when we have a misstep. We're gonna have it. There's moments where we all drive, and we all know that you look and there's gonna be a blind spot. And it's great when you have a good team because you can look over and say, hey, can you look over for me and see if anyone's there? And that's what teams do. They help us kind of take a look at that blind spot. So hey, if there's a misstep, there's a blind spot, it's an opportunity for learning and growing, a lesson learned. It's interesting. I was thinking the other day and I was like, it's so important that our lessons don't lessen us. So again, it's so important that our lessons don't lessen us. It's great to acknowledge. A good call looks like an oversight on my end. I love that. It's like I acknowledge, I take ownership. All right, let's grow and move forward from here. We're all humans, not robots. Absolutely. Thank you, Lindsay, for sharing that. All right, let's take a look at the next slide. Unless anyone has a note, any comments, anything at all that you'd like to share regarding this segment here. Any thoughts? Put them out there. If you want to take yourself off mute, please. Any thoughts that you may have will be wonderful to hear.
I think with a new relationship, Chad, apologizing early can build rapport. Sometimes it's sort of I don't want to call it a sales technique, but it makes people warm up to you a little bit better. If you meet someone new, and if I met you and you said, hi Dave, my name is Chad, and then if I said, oh, you know what, Chad, I apologize, I didn't ask you your last name, I want to address you properly. If you apologize early in a relationship, then that can really make somebody feel good about you.
That's great advice. Thank you, Dave, for sharing that. Depends on the severity of the situation, sure. Too many explanation marks in second statement. There are. All right, we're going to move on to the next slide. If something comes on in, it'll definitely be addressed. All right, so let's look at benefits of clear and effective communication. All right, so when you communicate clearly and effectively, all right, so ideally what we want to do is we want to eliminate misunderstandings. We also want to establish expectations. It creates an opportunity where we can share ideas and collaborate. And also we can break down the barriers or improve listening. So one of the things what's interesting is a number of years ago, as part of the university, we changed the employee to colleagues. And we're like, okay, now we're all colleagues. And what it did was it reframed in terms of the value of your voice. It doesn't matter in terms of what your role is within the hierarchy. When we're in a forum and we have an opportunity of sharing insights based upon what we do in our roles as a professional, your voice matters. So as a colleague scenario, it really created an opportunity of sharing insight, having folks becoming more courageous in terms of what they see that could be a valuable piece that we all need to have awareness on as part of the organization. And it gave us a chance to really look and dig in and grow. And actually, it's amazing in terms of this colleague reference and having that really reframe created opportunity for really sharing ideas, collaborating, growth, and sparks were actually created where we can actually impact the business and the process that we do more effectively. All right, so what makes written communication successful? All right, go ahead, please jot some comments down to the chat. What makes written communication successful? You can keep track of it. Clear message, Brevity and clarity. I like that word, brevity. Proper grammar and punctuation. On the record, brief to the point. Excellent. So a couple things, bullet points, opportunity to get everything out without interruption. Yes, just really having that flow without back and forth and back and forth. Simple language, context, concise. Thank you. This is great for sharing this. Now, I have something. Now, this next slide, I hope you don't hurt a shoulder because it's a wall of text. That's my little, yeah, there you go. So anyhow, so this is an example of a bad email. Not using inappropriate or difficult, yeah, not exactly, inappropriate, difficult language. So just take a look at this thing. This is an example. All right, so the first thing I see when I look at this email is a wall of text. I'm just like, holy moly. So already I'm thinking, oh, to me, this is arduous. And it just seems like energetically, I don't even know if I want to go through. And I may have to, because it might be something I'm working on. It's important. It's a rough draft. Yeah, it looks as though this would be a rough draft, but just imagine it's being sent out. Rambling, too many questions. So tell me what you see on this. Like, what are your thoughts on what you see here? And what do you think can be done to improve this? So, what are your thoughts on this email? But importantly, what do you think can be done to improve this? They need to break it up. Yeah, the writer's overwhelmed. There's typo. Yeah, there are typos. I'm just going through the comments coming through. Let's see, the writer's overwhelmed. No one can read the bullet point piece, bullet points for organization and clean look. TLDR, run on. Lindsay, what is TLDR? List out info requested, formatting. Didn't do the homework required. Too long, didn't read. Thank you. Too long. Thank you so much, Kurt. All right. So we have quite a bit going on. So let's look at this. All right. These are all wonderful reminders. And we do often this as part of our communication. So let's look at, does your message pass? All these acronyms, right? Purpose, action, supporting, subject. All right. So purpose, action, supporting, subject. So the first thing I'm thinking of is, what is the purpose? And I think so much of the purpose can be shared within the subject line. So here, seals from Florida questions. My initial thought were seals. I'm thinking I have to stamp something, the seal for the business. Wait, Florida, let me so that's what I'm thinking here. But let's go back to the purpose, action, supporting, subject lines. So again, this is what's the action involved? What is this supporting and the subject line? So we want to just have this as a reminder for us. The action and what's the due date? Support. So when I think of action, so action, respond, read, FYI only. Supporting documentation. Is there an attachment, something that's needed to support this? The subject line for clarity, for meaning. Let me see what else. I'm just thinking. So let's go on to the next slide here. And again, I'll have this as a reminder. So let's look at the improvements here. So now, what are your thoughts with this? And bullet points were a huge component that many of us were looking at saying, hey, this has got to be broken up. So there it is. It's broken up. We have the bullet points. And what's good about the bullet points, it's very specific on questions, which is great. It gives a chance for somebody to simply reply and perhaps do it in different font color in response to each question for ease and clarity for, okay, great, we have our answers that are listed here. Anything else coming to mind? Much easier read, good flow, much less overwhelming. Yeah, the overwhelming piece, absolutely. Subject is clear. Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you, Vijay. Thank you, Lindsay. This is great. So when we go through this too, what stands out for me is the subject line, funding the Florida Seals Project. For me, one of the important things on subject lines is not only does it add clarity to whom you send it to, but also if I need to go back into an archive and pull an email that was sent, what I'll have a tendency of doing is even put like a little parenthesis or something as a reference. So I can go back and more easily locate something I sent. And so I'll definitely make reference points within the subject line for myself, but also at the same token, have it where it's clear for the individual receiving the message to get an idea of what this is all about. There's a call to action, schedule meeting. Yeah, that's what I like about this as well. Nope, I hit the wrong button here. On the bottom segment here, I'd like to schedule a meeting to talk more about these and other questions. My team is available any day next week. Please let us know what day is best for you. Yeah, there's a very clear ask and agenda for coordinating time to get back together to evaluate this. So here, this is very close. The loop is closed in essence in terms of what you're looking for as part of this interaction. It's very clear, very thorough. All right, let's go on to the next component, email etiquette tips. So of course, know your audience. All right, clarify why. Always reread before sending. I think this is tremendous. There are going to be moments where it may not necessarily be that person or the email, but perhaps you've just stepped away from an intense meeting, or you are doing a different project. And in terms of your focus and your mindset is really in a different place. So if you need to walk away for a moment as a reset, ensure that you're doing so. Very important. There's also moments that you may want to wait 24 hours before you send something. Sometimes there's moments as a human being, we get emotional and we might be in the red zones. We definitely don't want to send something in that place. Check autocorrect fixes. Yeah, one of the things too is sometimes you may want to write something maybe in Word and kind of have it structured in Word and then carry it over into, let's say, your email, whether it's Gmail or Outlook, whatever system that you're using, that might help you in terms of framing it. Avoid esh cuts or abbreviations in biz. Yeah. One of the things I find often is that we're in such a habit of acronyms, and they're just everywhere. However, we may not necessarily know whether we have a team member that's new to the organization that may not have any idea. So as an example, we utilize Salesforce for a number of our tracking and information interaction and all that. So for us, we will put SF for Salesforce. So I'm always in a habit that, I'll write something out and I'll put the parenthesis of the acronym right next to it. And then moving forward, it's like, okay, great. I can use that acronym just so, again, we're all on the same page. I think that's really a huge, huge thing for us to do. I'm just taking a look here. So let me ask you, are there any pet peeves that you have regarding email? So what are some of the big email pet peeves that you've experienced? If you could go ahead. What's okay, so I'm reading something wrong. What's preference for everyone on number of unique emails versus responses to an ongoing email string? Hey, Will, let's open up. If you could kind of give us some insight into that question. Let me see if I can find.
Hey, sorry, my camera's off.
All good.
Everybody's opening up here, and my kids were out, and I've got a cold, so I've been snotting, and so I preface my voice here with that. Where do you keep starting a new email to a client? So for a project where you have a lot of emails or a lot of communication, it can be annoying when you have 20 different emails with different headings. Or is that something that people prefer? I notice with clients and myself, a lot of times we just keep communicating and responding back on an email header, to your point from earlier, where it's nice to have the email header directed to, or the email subject line directed to what's going on, because you can search for it. But at the same time, if you have 40 emails for, that can also be overwhelming. So just where's the line there? What's that look like?
So this is what I've done, and others may have another method that best supports. If there's a string of emails and it's going back and forth, but within this string, the subject is turning corners and it's leading to something new. What I'll typically do, if let's say, we're discussing, topic A, and all of a sudden now we're on topic E, I'll literally go in and I'll put, I always forget what this is called. I'm going to put in chat. So what I'll do is I'll actually will put a reference and I'll put it at the very end. And this is for me. So then this way I'll keep the subject line for what it is in that header. I'll keep everything intact. But what I'll then do is that I may go in and add a reference regarding just how this has been adjusting. So if I need to go back and review, I can say, okay, great. Let me kind of go back and with the same string, but at different points, I could see where the string of communication turned a corner into a different topic. So at least this way I can and review and find it and say, oh, okay, great. We adjusted the discussion here. Oh, okay, great. We're here now. I'm not sure if somebody has another method that might, another way that we can explore if you'd like to share that. I hope that helps, Will. And by the way, you sound great, so no worries.
Thanks. Yeah.
You came through clear, so that's important.
There we go. Yeah. Thank you.
Chad, I have a pet peeve that I'd like to share when it comes to email. It always drives me bananas when there's an email that gets sent out and you need a response by the recipient, but days will go by and the sender just feels like their job was done. It's almost like hot potato. Like, I'm going to throw the potato to you and I'll just wait and wait and wait. And oh, maybe you didn't see it. Maybe you didn't respond. But, I feel that if there's a certain amount of time that passes, you need to follow up with a phone call, especially if there's a sense of urgency, if there's a deadline, if time is of the essence. I see so many people, where they'll just send the email out and now they feel like their job is done instead of following up later.
Well, and that also, Dave, seems to be a method of managing time that some people use, where they'll do that, and then if there's no response and that hot potato's out of their hands, they can focus on other things and not feel like it's their fault delaying it. That's
100%. They would rather send 10 emails with no responses than make one phone call.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's good to kind of really pick and choose when you're going to follow up with a phone call. And you may do this now. I'll also put something in where I just may write, please reply, or I may write something regarding, response requested, and I'll put that within the subject line of whatever I'm sending out. And again, just to kind of, hopefully they'll catch it and be able to give a reply back a bit more timely. Sometimes that works. Sometimes, a phone call may be necessary to reconnect and just check in and find out what's going on. And sometimes you never know. There might be a situation where the person, something really came up that pulled them away, and that was the last thing on mind in terms of what was important for you, and it very well could be important for them too. But yeah, I think it's great to do the follow-up call just to check in. All right, so here is kind of looking at, if there's any other questions, anything else, I'm looking at the timing. I know that this subject matter is quite a bit of great content here. So let's look at, what makes verbal communication successful. So what are the things about verbal communication that we can look at? So a lot of that's going to look at body language, tone, listening, really reading nonverbal cues, the positioning of someone's body, shoulders being back, are they in Superman pose with their hands on their hips? Superman pose actually is great because what it does is actually been studied. When you put your hands on your hips and stand in that Superman pose and you hold it for 15 to 20 seconds, it actually does something chemically in your body that will send off like endorphins and actually really help in terms of, put your head frame in a better space. It was pretty interesting. I can't recall which article it was. All right, I'm going to go on to the next slide here. All right, so verbal communication skills. So using good grammar. All right, we want to make sure that, as part of effective speaking. So when we think about effective speaking, we want to look at three things. We want to look at the words you choose, all right, how you say them, and also we want to reinforce those words through non-verbal communication. All right, so the words you choose, how you say them, reinforce through nonverbal communication. And again, there's all the other segments of knowing your audience and those components, maintaining eye contact, your tone of voice. Let's check out this next slide here. So check this out. The power of nonverbal communication. Dr. Albert Moravians, 7, 38, 55% rule. Pretty amazing that the power of nonverbal communication, so much of it comes from body language. Absolutely amazing. One of the things that I found in terms of doing presentations, particularly in person, is that I would always make sure I'm looking at the audience, scanning above them. Sometimes there might be a clock in the back of the room. I'll kind of utilize that as a point of reference. If it's a one-on-one communication, having eye contact, acknowledgement, voice tone, 38%. Impressive. 7% is the actual spoken word. Amazing. So the words, great, they're important, but the feelings of how you leave someone is going to be tremendous. The body language, the tone is all going to support as part of that. Again, nonverbal communication, communicate without speaking, just kind of think about those particular pieces. Much of what we communicate is done at times unconsciously. So ultimately, we want to make sure that we can kind of maintain consciously in terms of what we're doing as part of communication. Another thing too, sometimes in terms of grounding, when I'm at times presenting, and it's a little bit different when I'm home and I'm behind my camera here, I'll hold a pen as something in hand to ground me. And that could even be having a difficult conversation with someone one-on-one, but something that can ground me to help me be more conscious of how am I holding myself? How am I speaking? What is a tone? What is happening as I'm delivering this message? And of course, the words themselves are important. So perhaps we go in prepared and having some points jotted down to more effectively keep us on track and having that clarity and organization in place for us. All right, using active listening techniques. So let's look at some of these. So I'm going to ask the question, what do great listeners actually do? So let me ask you, what do great listeners actually do? If you can give a comment on that, that'd be great. So what do great listeners actually do? I'd love to hear your responses on this. Repeat back what they heard, retain information, watch body language, let the person speaking finish, really listen, lean in, waiting for the person to finish listening. They actually listen, eye contact, engage in eye contact, mirror the person they're listening to. Excellent. One of the things too is I'll take notes. So I'll go through, now with the chat, it's very easy for me because the notes are there for me. However, typically I'll take notes. If I'm going into an interview, if I'm working with a client, if I'm working with a peer, I'll have a clear pad of paper and I'll make little notes as we're going through discussing something just to ensure that I'm not missing anything. Let's see what else we have coming on. Eye contact, put their phone down. Yeah, one of the things that I've done is I've actually done a display where I take my phone out and in front of the individual, I'm shutting off my phone or pulling it on silent, and I'm putting the phone over at another page. I'm almost like accentuating it to a point to make it clear that, hey, you are the most important thing here. You are the most important person here. I'm taking my phone, I'm putting on silence, I'm doing in front of you as a showing a good faith, and I'm putting it over there. And all right, I'm focusing on you. Another thing, particularly when you're in an office setting, all right, let's say you have somebody walking into your space. One of the things that's an unspoken, you matter, is when your desk is fully clear. So just imagine you walk in, you're sitting down, you have a really important thing you have to share. It could be a peer, your boss, whomever, and you walk and you sit, and right across the desk, there's just papers, it's disheveled, there's things, it's a mess. Right then and there, without you even realizing, or maybe you do, you're not going to come across as feeling as though you're the most important person. However, if you walk in and that desk is clear, or the person made a point to move items away from the desk and create a clear, open space, without saying a word, they're conveying, you matter. All right, let's take a look more. We have paraphrasing. Seriously, don't look at the phone, ask questions. Yeah. Engaging questions. Yeah, I always find that, oftentimes the right question, it's amazing in terms of asking the right questions, what that can do with the conversation, and what that could also do in terms of the person that you're having this interaction with, to be like, wow, this person's engaged. That's a great question. Let's go a bit more deeply into this. Turn on your video camera on virtual calls whenever possible. Yeah, we want to see you. You know, if you don't have the capability, that's going to happen at times. But if we can see you, that'd be great. All right, this is wonderful. I really appreciate everyone sharing this. Listen and hear rather than waiting to speak. Watch body language. Find common ground. Paraphrase. Suspend your own frame and reference and judgments. So there are moments where I may need to do an internal investigation. And one of the things I've learned is rather than going about having a judgment, and believe me, we all have judgments, we're going to be human beings, I'll reframe that judgment statement into a question. So rather than saying, oh, I think so-and-so did this and they're not being honest with their information, rather I'll say, I need to investigate and research these particular areas. So it takes that judgment statement into an investigative mode of like, okay, so I'm not going to judge you. That is something that's there, but let me ask the right question for what I have to investigate to determine whether that judgment that I have in mind is accurate, because it might not be. Validate what the speaker is saying. Absolutely. I think validation is tremendous. There are going to be moments where somebody may be sharing information. They might be sharing something that has nothing to do with what's happening in that moment or with that conversation. But there's something that occurred. They're bringing in with them to that meeting. And they may just share some of the emotions like, hey, you know, something that's happened. I think it's great to listen and acknowledge the emotion, and then looking to reset the conversation on what you're looking to really focus on. And sometimes what that person may share in the acknowledgement may kind of shift in terms of where you're going as part of the interaction, but that's okay too at times. All right, so let's take a look. Ask questions. We're going to go on. Anything else anyone would like to share? Any questions here at this point? All right, let's go on to the next slide. So this is tremendous. The single biggest problem in communication is the illusion it has taken place. Remember that clear communication can make a difference. And oftentimes it's the difference. It's the thing that will really project, whether it's a relationship, really project a project toward completion and actually being completed, toward, excuse me, a sale, toward closing, toward really repairing, toward growth. There's so many modes of what great communication in terms of what it can do. And even the communication we tell ourselves, very important in terms of what's the mindset, what's my framework for when I'm coming into the conversation. Who am I bringing to the table? Am I bringing an industry leader? Am I bringing an expert? Am I bringing someone who's engaged as a professional? I have my pieces in place. Am I ready? Or am I bringing other than that may not necessarily be as powerful in terms of what can be shared within the interaction? So it's all a number of different things. So without further ado, I'd like to say thank you. This is the end of the Effective Communication webinar. This has been really great for me. I always love and truly enjoy sharing this information and also gaining and learning feedback from all of you. Any questions, anything that you'd like to put right into the comments regarding takeaways that were beneficial? So I'm just going to ask if you wouldn't mind if you could just jot down a quick takeaway of what you were able to pull from today. That'll be wonderful to see. Thank you. Oh, thank you very much. Composing more quality emails. Be careful with the emojis and acronyms. Thank you. I really like the 73855 concept. Pass. Excellent. Being more considerate in your tone. Pass. Thank you. All right. I learned. Excellent. The importance of listening. All right. So what we can do too is we can even look to pull some of these responses. I like to share some of the things that folks have learned. And then we can provide perhaps, I'm going to actually save this as well. And we can always kind of perhaps kind of share this in terms of what are some of the pieces people took away. Sometimes other things will come up. In addition, I'll work with Dave to ensure that we have the references provided for everyone. I'm also going to have a reference guide that will be sent out to everyone as well, which will be a great reminder in terms of what we went over. And I really appreciate all of you. I thank you so much for the great words here in terms of you know, with the presentation and you getting so much from it. So thank you so much for that. I am going to transition into a development piece. So you have this information. It's definitely going to be in a world of development and growth. So, you know, we have a benefit. It's going to be through the North Jersey Chamber of Commerce. And that's how Dave and I met. And it was actually through one of these webinars and workshops that we do. So anyhow, as part of the North Jersey Chamber, we wound up having a benefit where if somebody wanted to consider development, we have a number of certificates, associates, bachelors, all these different programs that we have. But the important thing is that we actually have advisors that do coaching sessions that can actually address questions about your development, your growth, and seeing if we actually have anything that supports you. If we do, and like, oh, great, there's something that matches for your family. As part of this benefit here, there's actually an actual 25% tuition savings for members of the chamber. But more importantly, if you ever decide that you want to have a conversation just to figure out, hey, there might be an area of development, perhaps DeVry University has something for me. What you could do is actually just my link there is I'm going to actually just have a link that I can put in for you here. HTTPS, DeVry Works. So if you ever decide that you want to check something out or just do an advisory session and see if we have something in the university that might be beneficial for you or family member, you could do a coaching session, a complimentary. It'll just help really organize development opportunity. And then from there, if it winds up being a fit, great. If not, that's okay too. It might give you some wonderful information for something else that you might be able to locate elsewhere for as part of your journey here, development. And then the next piece is going to be a number of the references. I'll get this out to you so you have it. And I will stop sharing. And all right, we're butting up against getting close to 9:30.
Thanks, Chad. Thanks, Chad. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, please.
So, you know, really huge thank you to Chad for taking time out of his busy day. As Chad mentioned in one of his last slides, we connected through the North Jersey Chamber of Commerce, which most of you know, Be Sure is now a member of. I've only been a member of the chamber for a short amount of time, but I've met some, you know, many fantastic people just like Chad here today. So I really do appreciate him taking the time to share his insight on effective communication with all of you guys. Again, you know, in an effort to add value to your membership with Be Sure and to do something a little bit different, shake it up from our typical weekly meetings. We will have some guest speakers from time to time. And, you know, thanks, Chad, for sharing your information. And if you guys do want to reach out to Chad and see if there's any way that he or DeVry can help you or anyone you know, then please do so. Just a couple of items of business with 3 minutes left. So this meeting today was in lieu of our 3 affiliate meetings. So for those of you who are in Upper Montclair in Jersey City, there will be no meeting tomorrow or Thursday. And then next week, we're going to go dark in celebration of Memorial Day. So everybody has a week off next week. So let's take a deep breath. Let's regroup. Let's enjoy some time off, hopefully. And the following week, I'm working on having an in-person meeting for all of us. So stay tuned for details to come. I do want to thank our guests and future Be Sure partners who were on the call, VJ, Kelly, Felicia, Dylan, Pete, and Claudine. Thank you guys for being here today and hopefully getting something out of it. I know Chad is he's an awesome communicator himself, and I hope that that you guys took away something valuable that you can add to your businesses. So anybody, we only have 2 minutes left, and I know there's a lot of people on the call. Does anybody have anything important that they want to share about their business that's happening, you know, maybe this week or next while we're off? Any webinars or events or anything important that you want to tell the group? All right, guys. Thanks, Will. Have fun and safe Memorial break. Thanks, Will. Looking forward to seeing all you guys in person within the next couple of weeks. I'm glad that we did have a great attendance today. For those of you who might be watching the replay, we're going to have it. We're going to have it shared amongst all the members here and Be Sure. So you can go back if there was something that you loved that Chad shared, or something that you might have missed that you wanted to go and reflect on. I'll share the link with you guys to rewatch the presentation. So as always, guys, business relationship building is a choice, not a chore. Be sure you are building your business relationships the right way. Thanks again to Chad from DeVry University. Thank you guys for taking the time to be here today, and I'll see you guys all in a couple of weeks. Have a great holiday.
Good
Thank
holiday,
you.
everyone.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you.
Guys.
Bye, Dave. Thanks, Chad.
Thank you, everyone.